We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes 12 years in office, transforming India into an aspirational nation driven by opportunity, innovation and self-belief. Strategic all-weather Zojila Tunnel between Kashmir and Kargil sees light of the day. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari triggers final blast for the historic breakthrough. Iran and Israel agree to pause strikes but warn of retaliation if ceasefire breached again. US President and UN urge both sides to refrain from any action. And on to the details. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic third consecutive term stands as a shining testament to his resolute drive towards building a Viksit Bharat by 2047. Marked by bold economic reforms, massive infrastructure push, landmark governance initiatives and strong national security actions like Operation Sindoor, the government continues to deliver decisive governance focused on development, self-reliance and citizen welfare. More in this special report.
Narendra Das Modi.
On the 9th of June in 2024, Narendra Modi took oath as Prime Minister of India for a historic third consecutive term, becoming only the second leader after Jawaharlal Nehru.
Narendra Das Modi.
On the 9th of June in 2024, Narendra Modi took oath as Prime Minister of India for a historic third consecutive term, becoming only the second leader after Jawaharlal Nehru to achieve this feat. Administered by President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the ceremony marked the continuation of a journey rooted in dedication to national service. Born into a humble family in Vadnagar, Gujarat, Narendra Modi rose through grassroots politics with an unwavering commitment to development, good governance and cultural pride. From his early days as a Swayamsevak in the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh to Chief Minister of Gujarat and now leading the nation for over a decade, Prime Minister Modi has embodied the spirit of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. In his third term, he continues to drive India towards Viksit Bharat by 2047 with bold, decisive actions. Since taking oath, the government has delivered on multiple fronts. The Union Budget announced major initiatives for employment generation, youth skilling, internship opportunities, and increasing workforce participation. Significant allocations were made for highways, railways, ports, industrial corridors, and logistics infrastructure, with special emphasis on infrastructure-led economic growth. In the semiconductor and electronics sector, the government accelerated efforts under the India Semiconductor Mission, approving new projects and investments to position India as a global manufacturing hub. Renewable energy initiatives expanded rapidly through solar energy projects, green hydrogen development, energy transition programs, and climate resilience measures. A landmark step came with the launch of Mission Mausam to modernize weather forecasting, climate services, and atmospheric observation systems, enhancing forecasting accuracy and disaster preparedness for a weather-ready and climate-smart India. Bold reforms defined this term. The Waqf Amendment Bill was introduced to improve transparency, efficiency, and management of Waqf properties, strengthening governance and accountability in their administration. In rural India, the VBG Ramji Act 2025 replaced MG providing a legal guarantee of 125 days of wage employment per rural household per year, a major boost to livelihoods and rural development. On the global stage, India and the United States launched bilateral trade agreement negotiations in February 2025. By February 2026, they announced a framework for an interim trade arrangement advancing towards a comprehensive pact. India and Oman operationalized their Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, expected to significantly boost trade, investment and economic cooperation. National security saw decisive action. Following a major terrorist attack, India launched Operation Sindoor in 2025, targeting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and POK. This deliberated military response demonstrated India's zero-tolerance policy against cross-border terrorism and underscored strong national security resolve. From transparent governance and economic push to security and global partnerships, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term reflects bold decisions for a stronger, self-reliant India. This is the story of leadership with vision and action. Antara Sinha for DD India.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi marks 12 years in office, emphasizing government initiatives focused on dignity, opportunity and welfare for the poor. In a post on X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote, and I quote, "The past 12 years of our government have been dedicated to trust, development and public welfare. With the blessings of 1.4 billion fellow citizens and the spirit of nation first, we have spared no effort in empowering our youth, women and our farmer brothers and sisters. It is the result of these tireless efforts that today, from infrastructure to the digital revolution, the country has gained a new identity on the global stage. To realize the resolve of a developed India, we will continue to move forward relentlessly on this path of service, good governance and prosperity." Unquote. Well, India has slammed Pakistan at the United Nations Security Council for weaponizing Afghanistan's landlocked status and carrying out deadly airstrikes that have killed hundreds of civilians. Speaking at the UNSC on the situation in Afghanistan, Indian Ambassador to UN P. Harish said Pakistan's denial of transit access for Afghan traders amounted to unprecedented trade and transit terrorism. He also flagged concerns raised by the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan over Pakistan's campaign of military airstrikes that has led to blockade of key trade routes and disrupted livelihoods. The ambassador further urged the international community to safeguard the economic rights of landlocked Afghanistan.
We have operationalized a dedicated air freight corridor between India and Afghanistan. We are also supporting Afghan traders by issuing hundreds of gratis long-term business visas who are suffering under unprecedented trade and transit terrorism inflicted upon them by Pakistan's denial of passage for trade. The cynical closure of access for this landlocked country is in total violation of UN declarations on landlocked developing countries and a clear weaponization of their trade and transit vulnerabilities. This blatant Pakistani violation of WTO norms and of the UN Charter and international law should be condemned by the global community.
While referring to India's capacity building and humanitarian assistance initiatives for Kabul, P. Harish stressed that India is supporting the people not only affected by the conflict but also dealing with natural disasters.
We lend our voice again in re-emphasizing the importance of incentivizing positive actions. The political reality of Afghanistan has changed in the last 5 years, and the current UN sanctions regime must take that into account. The UN and the international community need policy instruments that aim to benefit the people of Afghanistan and nudge policy in the right direction, rather than only wielding tools of punishment that are yielding diminishing returns. The international community must engage with all stakeholders across all formats. Pakistan's campaign of military airstrikes against Afghanistan is causing huge civilian casualties and sufferings to the Afghan people. We reiterate Secretary General's deep concern at civilian casualties caused by airstrikes, cross-border firing, and targeted killings as detailed in UNAMA reports. We support the Secretary General's call urging compliance with obligations under international law, including international humanitarian law, and ensuring protection of civilians. We also support UNAMA's earlier calls for investigation to ensure accountability, prevent recurrence, and uphold victims' rights. Such unconscionable acts of violence are a blatant assault on Afghanistan's sovereignty and a threat to the region's peace and stability. India strongly condemns the airstrikes on Afghan territory.
Well, the ambassador slammed Islamabad's decision to refer to groups inside its own borders as Fitna al-Hindustan as nothing but officially sponsored misinformation dressed in religious terminology.
Coming up with official notifications directing Pakistan's government agencies to start referring to groups inside its own borders as Fitna al-Hindustan is nothing but officially sponsored misinformation and disinformation dressed in religious terminology. This is an outcome of an organized factory of hate coming from the deep state of Pakistan, which aims to keep their citizens in a state of permanent hostility with India in order to perpetuate their stay in power and control of national resources and detract them from core political and economic problems. The de facto coup by the military through the 27th Constitutional Amendment is only its most recent manifestation.
Well, in a major milestone for India's infrastructure, the excavation of the iconic Zojila Tunnel is set to achieve its final breakthrough. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari will trigger the last blast on Tuesday, completing the tunnelling phase of the ambitious project. The minister was accompanied by Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha. The 13.153 kilometers single-tube bi-directional tunnel, located at an elevation of 11,578 feet, will be the world's longest and highest such road tunnel. It connects Baltal in Kashmir Valley's Sonmarg with Meena Marg in Ladakh's Dras Kargil by passing the treacherous Zojila Pass. Work on the tunnel began in April in the year 2021 from both ends. Once operational, the tunnel will provide all-weather connectivity on the Srinagar-Kargil-Leh highway, ending months-long winter closures caused by heavy snow and avalanches. And some weather updates now. With southwest monsoon rains continue to lash Kerala, the India Meteorological Department has issued weather alerts for 11 districts today. 3 districts have been placed under red alert, 2 under orange alert and 6 under yellow alert amid forecast of heavy to extremely heavy rainfall. The IMD has issued a red alert for Kozhikode, Kannur and Kasaragod districts where extremely heavy rainfall exceeding 20 centimeters is likely to occur. The IMD has issued a heavy rainfall alert for Kerala until Friday, with wind and fishermen warnings active until Wednesday. Due to the bad weather, authorities in Kozhikode, Kannur and Kasaragod have declared a holiday for all educational institutions. Well, the IMD has also warned that Delhi NCR will continue to experience severe heat over the next 48 hours, with maximum temperature expected to rise further. Heatwave conditions are very likely at isolated places over Haryana, Delhi, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh, Vidarbha and West Rajasthan. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
We have one other neighbor, Pakistan, and there the response is very, this doesn't apply because, when somebody practices cross-border terrorism as the central feature of the policy towards us, that, you have to also ensure there are consequences, that it is not something which will be cost-free. So when you are comparing eras, I think the one thing this country is very clear on, nobody wants to see again what happened at 26/11. That 26/11 was cost-free. That should never happen again.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls' pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Khurana. And moving on, Iran and Israel have announced a pause in their military operations against each other following a rapid escalation of hostilities over Sunday and Monday. Both sides said that they were halting the latest round of fire, but also warned they would retaliate if struck again. This came hours after Iran's armed forces said it had stopped operations following the delivery of painful response to Israel. Later on Monday, Iran's main military command issued a statement announcing a halt to strikes against Israel. Now, the latest round of strikes began on Sunday evening when Iran launched missiles at northern Israel in retaliation for Israel's expanded military operations in Lebanon. Also, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has conveyed a deep concern over the Israeli decision to close the key crossings into Gaza and suspend the entry of humanitarian and commercial supplies. UN spokesperson Farhan Haq emphasized that people in Gaza rely on a steady flow of humanitarian and commercial goods from outside. US President Donald Trump said negotiations with Iran were ongoing and suggested progress could be clear within 1 or 2 days, while insisting a US blockade remained fully effective. Responding to questions about a reported military helicopter incident in the strait, he said the pilots were safe and no one was injured, with a formal report expected the next day.
We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran. That hasn't stopped, and we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well. The blockade continues to hold 100%. Nothing is getting through our blockade. No oil, no income, no nothing. Nothing's getting through the blockade.
There's a report that an Army helicopter went down in the strait. Can you give us an update on that? Are the soldiers okay?
The pilots are fine, yeah.
And was
nobody
that
injured.
Brought it down?
We are going to issue a report tomorrow, but the pilots are fine, yeah.
And demonstrating its unwavering commitment to the safety and welfare of Indian seafarers worldwide, the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, Mumbai, coordinated closely with Omani authorities to ensure the successful rescue of 24 Indian crew members following a missile attack on a merchant tanker off the coast of Oman. The rescued crew members are reported to be safe and no casualties or injuries have been reported. The vessel is presently anchored off Masira, Oman. The successful rescue operation highlights the effectiveness of international maritime cooperation and the strong coordination mechanisms established between maritime rescue authorities in the region. It also underscores the Indian Coast Guard's commitment to safeguarding Indian seafarers and providing timely assistance during maritime emergencies, irrespective of location. Well, recent studies report that nuclear-armed states have spent over $470 billion on their arsenals in the past 5 years, marking a record high in nuclear weapons spending amid a renewed global arms race. Global spending on nuclear weapons reached a record $119 billion in 2025, marking a 19% rise compared to 2024. The 9 nuclear-armed countries increased investment in modernizing and deploying their arsenals. More warheads are being moved from storage to active delivery systems. Number of nuclear weapons available for use have risen to 9,745. The United States remained the largest spender, followed by China. Rising geopolitical tensions have weakened arms control, and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence are increasing nuclear risk. Well, the world saw the highest number of state conflicts since the Second World War in 2025, according to the annual Conflict Trends report from the Peace Research Institute, Oslo. The world recorded 65 state-based conflicts in 2025, the highest since 1946. Interstate wars doubled to 8, including clashes involving Afghanistan, Pakistan, Cambodia, Thailand, as well as the conflict involving Russia, Ukraine, Israel and Syria. Around 245,000 people were killed in fighting and political violence worldwide in 2025. Civilian targeted attacks killed nearly 76,500 people during 2025. Sudan conflict drove major increase in civilian casualties worldwide, and Al-Fashar violence alone may have killed 60,000 people. Now, the bloodshed was exceeded only by the 1994 Rwanda genocide and the 2021 Tigray War in Ethiopia. Simultaneous major wars are sustaining persistently high global violence. Africa remained the world's most conflict-affected region in 2025. Also, Israel involved across multiple regional conflict. The report warned of weakening international cooperation, a more divided world order, and reduced effectiveness of institutions such as the United Nations Security Council. Findings are based on data compiled by the Uppsala Conflict Data Program at Uppsala University. And moving on, in the United States, a federal judge has struck down a $100,000 fee that U.S. President imposed on new H-1B visas for highly skilled foreign workers. Court concluded that it constituted an unlawful tax Congress never authorized. The administration argued that the fee constituted a lawful monetary penalty that the president was authorized to impose under federal immigration law. But judge concluded that the fee was not a penalty but a tax that the Republican president lacked any authorization from Congress to issue, and that the U.S. State Department and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services could not implement. White House spokeswoman Taylor Rogers in a statement said the Trump administration is confident this order will be reversed on appeal. The H-1B program offers 65,000 visas annually, with another 20,000 visas for workers with advanced degrees approved for 3 to 6 years. And ChatGPT maker OpenAI has filed confidentially to go public on the U.S. stock market. The artificial intelligence giant's debut on Wall Street is expected to be one of the most highly valued listings in market history. Though it did not disclose the size or terms of the offerings and said a timeline has not yet been determined, it now joins rival Anthropic in a push towards the stock market as investors seek exposure to the artificial intelligence boom. At that valuation, OpenAI would set the stage for a trio of trillion-dollar valuation companies debuting rapidly, which together are seen as the most consequential test of investor appetite for high-growth technology stocks in the last 10 years. Earlier, Anthropic, the company behind the viral coding assistant Claude Code, said on June 1st that it had confidentially filed for a U.S. initial public offering weeks after raising $65 billion in a funding round that valued it at $965 billion. And some weather-related update now. In New Zealand, gale force winds and rough seas battered Wellington on Tuesday, disrupting transport. Authorities urged hundreds of residents along the south coast to evacuate as ferries, flights and roads were shut. Strong winds at Wellington Airport in New Zealand tipped a light aircraft onto its wing and wheel. Around 8 flights were cancelled and ferry services between the North and South Islands were also suspended. A state of emergency has been declared for parts of Wellington after the warning of the Weather Bureau. A NASA astronaut, Jessica Meyer, part of the SpaceX Crew 12 mission, has recently shared a time-lapse of the Southern Lights, or the Aurora Australis, as seen from the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. Meyer wrote on social media, as opposed to the previous Aurora she has seen, this one danced and snaked its way directly below the spacecraft, putting on quite a show. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.